What is up, everyone? Jake
And Lincoln.
back in the booth for our modern RCQ 1K final match. We got two Impact Gaming Clan members. In the
Yeehaw.
finals. We got Kevin back on Jeskai Wizards and Will on Dimir Frog. We've had both these players on camera today. Both these players have won on camera today, but there's only, I think, one invite, and only one person can walk home with it. Who's it going to be? I know Kevin wants this invite. I'm pretty sure Will wants this invite. So both players are here to win, but we're also here to have a good time. We got our Judge Higgins sitting right next to them. And before we get going, if you are watching on Twitch, subscribe to the channel. We just had three amazing people resub to this great channel. If you are watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Post what are you going to be playing for our Modern RCQ season? I'm going to be playing this Jeskai Wizards list because I made it and I think it's sick. If you liked any of the cards you saw today, make sure you pick them up at impactgamingcenter.gg. If you like cool wizard cards, you want to be a frog player, you want to be an Eldrazi player, they got all of it. So let's get into it. We have wizards and frogs.
So before we launch into this off to the races, I'm going to pull up these deck lists really quick. Let's talk over this matchup that we're seeing. Just to review on what we have going on, the Haymaker cards for Will are going to be an early Psychic Frog and a late game Murktide Regent. The Haymakers for Kevin are going to be Flage and honestly Tashana's Tidebinder, being able to remove all of the abilities from Frog in response to feeding the Frog, and removing the abilities from Murktide, though you will have to do it in response to a trigger from an instant or sorcery leaving the graveyard.
Oh, wait, wasn't it if I was going to be on stream, I was supposed to shuffle this deck somewhere?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think our other Impact friends are trying to convince Will to shuffle the deck. I think he's telling him to riffle shuffle, which I wouldn't because Kevin's got a bunch of foils in there. Even though I riffle shuffle my own decks, I think as long as you're double sleeved, you're pretty much fine. But yeah, I mean, these are two pillars of the format. Frog, huge. Maybe not both, but Frog is a massive deck. This deck is very popular. We see Will has a Harbinger of the Seas in hand, which could be very scary if Kevin doesn't respect it with fetching early on, and getting stuck on just blue mana is rough. When I built my Jeskai Wizards list, the only white card in the main deck was Flage, because I wanted to make sure when I sided into Eldrazi, I could not have to worry about fetching up basic or fetching around my own Harbinger of the Seas. But I think that with Kevin's list today, he's played a lot of. I don't think. Well, we didn't have a single Eldrazi player make it into the top 8.
We did not, and that's actually something I want to shout out real quick. Out of all of the Eldrazi and Amulet Titan representation that we had today, not a single one of them made it into the top 8. And I certainly don't want to speculate too early about what that means for the format or anything of the sort, but it is a very interesting thing to consider as people have been freaking out about this new Ugin. And don't get me wrong, the card seems very strong, and yet we don't see him in our top 8.
No, I think the main problem is people just haven't had the time to pick up their Ugins. And innovate on this Eldrazi list. I mean, we got what, 3 months of RCQ season left? We got ample time.
Absolutely. So we may well see the prevalence of Eldrazi and Tron lists escalate over the next few months as modern season of RCQs develops. But wow, Will in with one of the big Haymaker cards, which is Thoughtseize, actually. Always a house in these control matchups. And being able to look at 3 possible options, Lightning Bolt, Counterspell, or Prismatic Ending.
I mean, it's got to be huge. Seeing what specific cards you want to rock and take out, it's got to be massive for Will. And knowing what Kevin might have in his hand moving on into the later part of the game is insurmountable.
Absolutely.
Thoughtseize is a modern staple, and it saw a lot. It got kind of kicked out of the format for a little bit. It was. Got Les Alex in the booth taking some
photos so he can show how his pupils are doing back here. Running the booth without him.
I know. I think we've done pretty good. We got 40 people watching right now. I think
we've done good. So here we are in the finals, and I really want to take a little bit. Let's belabor on that thought seize for a moment, because looking at the hand, he chose to take Pend, and this could mean he's about to run out a frog on 2. That would be a huge play. He does not do that. Okay,
No
he may not have a
frog.
frog, but
Lango.
the idea of is that play could be really, really good, as Kevin couldn't counterspell it. We could feed the frog to save it from lightning bolt, and frog turns into a card advantage engine if you can slam it early. But no frog, so it looks like Will misses out on what could have been an insane opportunity to just run away with game 1.
So Will is responding to Kevin's fetch with an Orcish Bowmasters.
Yes.
So there is no window for Kevin to counter the Bowmasters. He has the counterspell in hand. I think he's got 2 counterspells. So you got 2 counterspells in a flare denial. So no option to respond to this. This Bowmasters is hitting the field, and it's going to start doing his Bowie Master thing.
Now, this is exactly what we were talking about with a greedy mana base. Kevin is playing 2 non-basics right now, and that could pose a threat. Now, he does have counter spells, but that would require him to either float a red mana and bolt the Harbinger. Oh, it was not in response to the fetch. Will threw the Bowmaster out early.
Interesting. Bowie's just going to
Oh,
he's just
that was
slamming
the
his Harbinger
point.
the seas.
He really wanted to bait the counter spell. That was really good play from Will. Yeah, he wanted to bait that counter spell
Yep.
out, and it worked perfectly. Great play. What a showing.
So the first set of D&D minis was back in the day before eBay got better searches.
And you can hear the
Why is
play of
Hagen
my-
talking about eBay out there?
Hagen discussing eBay, our wonderful judge.
Can Kevin draw something to dig himself out of this Harbinger?
That's an
this is?
island. All right, he's got 3 islands. Yikes. He can hardcast Flare of Denials and all that, but as of right now, he's staring down Harbinger Beater. As for Les Alex in the comments, we sure did shout outs.
Oh, no shout outs. I think our own judge here should give him a shout out. I don't think we're doing anything, but force. Oh my gosh. So we got a counterspell battle there. The flare gets countered by the force of negation. Tamio gets the stick. Kevin hits. The best basic in his deck right now is just basic island.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's not what he wants. Kevin
Not
is
at all.
staring at a field of islands. So, Will, my goodness, these Harbingers, and now I hate to try and swoop in and take a little bit of credit, but I beat Will in the Modern F&M last night, and I convinced him to play the Harbingers in the main. He was not originally going to do it, but after getting blown out by it once or twice, he decided to do it. And now here he is blowing out a game with the Harbinger in the main. What a showing. And yeah, this is tough for good old Kevin KT.
Yeah, we countered the Murktide, which is huge, but we didn't solve the problem of, there's another mountain or another island. We didn't solve the problem of this Harbinger, which, may not be winning fast, but at some point it's going to be Kevin down to, he's at 10. These players need to update their life totals. I can see Kevin's boogie board and I should be paying attention to that, but Will's going to crack this clue, draw a card.
Oh my goodness.
Flip Tamio?
I think he's just going to pressure for the ult here because right now, Kevin.
Oh, another bolt.
Oh, wow. Going right to
And we're
game
scooping
2.
it up.
Hey, that's the power of the main board Harbinger. A lot of folks have returned to running main board Harbinger, and a lot of that is because it not only does so well into the Amulet and Tron matchups that have been so prevalent here today, but even in control type matchups like this, if you can resolve a Harbinger, you can run away with the game.
We saw that right there where Kevin did draw basic, the one basic he really didn't want. But Will got game number 1. Now Kevin has to remember going into games 2 and 3,
Well, while we're talking about it, let's pull up these sideboards. They are reviewing each other's deck lists. This is I think it's a relatively new thing. Keep me honest on that.
I don't think so. I think in the area, I think RCQs are now moving open deck list finals. It's really a judge call. I think the judge gets to decide if they want to do open deck lists or not. If I think it's just a judge call. It's up to the RCQ. I'm not 100% sure, but
Well, I think it's really interesting to see, and I think it generates a really good dynamic.
Yes.
So I'm a big fan of that.
I
So
love it.
looking at Will's sideboard, he has 1 subtlety, 4 consigned to memories, 2 mystical disputes, 2 stern scoldings, 1 toxic deluge, 1 engineered explosives, 2 Nile spell bombs, 1 spell pierce, and 1 Shieldred's edict. And pivoting over to Kevin's sideboard, here within Kevin's sideboard, we have 3 Harbinger of the Seas, 2 Soul Guide Lanterns, 2 Wrath of the Skies, 1 Teferi Time Raveler, 3 Celestial Purges, and 4 Consigned Memories. So let's start with Will's sideboard. The subtlety comes in every time. You need beaters. You can also use it as a great way to punish the Flage escape. Um, the 2 mystical disputes, they come in every time in the blue mirrors. Win a counterspell battle for free, basically.
Card is very good.
Yes, it is. The scoldings, the deluges, the consigns, the explosives, none of those. They're all staying out. But the 2 Nile spell bombs, I think we should consider bringing those in. Card draw plus, keep dealing with Flage. 1 of spell pierce. That may come in. Spell Pierce, I think I would avoid. I tend to find that Spell Pierce is very effective in the early turns of control games, right?
There's-
I want to resolve
yeah.
a frog on to protect the fatal push Spell Pierce, right? I don't really love it in these matchups because the chance of getting your 1 of too late in the game is just really, really high.
It loses so much value.
Yes.
The every turn that passes, Spell Pierce gets that much worse.
Yes, absolutely. And then the last one in the sideboard, Shieldred's Edict, I think we avoid it. It could be a great way to answer Flage, but I think that
There's so much other
Yeah.
removal you have in the deck.
I think everything else we're playing is to stop Flage from ever hitting the battlefield. But let's pivot over to Kevin's sideboard. We've already discussed what's in there. I think the 3 Harbingers, I don't think those come in. I think that if I'm Will, I'm probably taking them out too. Don't know for sure, but I guarantee you Kevin's going to think twice about how he fetches in games 2 and 3, so you may not get the value out of it. The 2 Soul Guide Lanterns every single time. You are bringing those in. You want to make sure you keep the graveyard of Dimir Murktide empty. The Teferi Time Raveler comes in. All 3 Celestial Purges come in. The 2
Very Time Raveler's got to be like an A plus card in this matchup.
Yes, Teferi is so scary to see resolve across the table from you. And I'm going to call attention to Will's sideboard real quick as we were talking about that, and his main board. A resolved Teferi, or even a Teferi, a resolved Teferi, that's really hard to deal with.
Yeah, the frog deck doesn't deal with permanents very well. But one of the hardest permanents for Kevin to beat has to be Kaido, which these blue-black decks have kind of started picking up in the last few months. I mean, that card is a house. It draws you cards. It's a beater. There's weird interactions where it's not a planeswalker, but it's because it's a creature, but it still has hexproof. Kaido's nuts. Kaido's
Absolutely.
very good. It also locks down the Flage for 2 turns, which can definitely matter. Kaido's great.
Agreed.
And I think if you were playing Wizards and a Grixis shell, I'd be looking at that because you can Bowmasters flat or do a little swoopy swap with the token, which who cares if you don't have your Orc army? You got
Or
a Kaido.
Maybe not even the token. Put
Yeah,
the
well,
Bowmaster back in your hand to get
seems
that
great.
cast trigger again. Yeah. So I want to change my answer earlier about Will's Shieldred's Edict and say that looking at the Teferi, I really want to bring in the Edict because that might be one of the only clean ways to answer this this Teferi should it resolve.
Let's see. Kevin's got 2 Lure and Revealed, a bunch of lands, a Flage, and a Flaminor. Kind of a stinky hand. I don't know if I love it. And Will's hand is a Shadow, and I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, Kevin's keeping. Bin the snap.
All right. No Snapcaster. Kevin says I don't want it.
Nope. There's a team.
All right, Tameo right away. Really great card. Oh,
Kevin draws his own
throws his
Tameo.
own at it. Sure does.
Plays it, plays land, pass the turn.
All right.
So Kevin, I know, has 3 Surveillance in his hand. If he doesn't have a hand or a lane number 2, do you want to surveil for a land, or are you playing that untapped land and getting that Lore Revealed?
You know, dealer's choice on that.
I think he said so going to 17 and we just wrote life total. So I think we're gonna shock. We're shocking the Steam vents.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I was wrong. I thought that Kevin would be fetching for basics for a while, and I thought I really thought we would see some more patient fetches, but I guess if all you can fetch for off that Misty Rainforest is a basic island, yeah, not really any
No.
sense in fetching up the basic there. So
I
yeah.
I don't know. I'm very torn on the Misties because it's the worst fetch in the deck, and it only fetches either shocks, surveils, or basic island. I don't think it's as good. I kind of think I would play Arid Mesa again, just because Arid Mesa can fetch out your two basic lands that aren't islands, and
Mhm.
sometimes, sometimes you get burned by burn and you have to fetch up the shock. Sometimes when you're facing down, especially the Flood Moon,
Mhm.
not hitting your land can be huge.
And now that we're seeing so many decks running Flood Moon in the main, I mean, 3 of our top 8 were Frog Tides,
Yep.
all of which had 2 or more copies of Harbinger in the main. So I have to say, Mesa might be the move to make sure we can fetch up some basic lands.
Oh, and Kevin stifles Will's fetch trigger.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Is this
huge.
legacy that we're watching right now.
Oh
What a
no. Will's
play.
got to be so tilted right now. He's like, oh no, my land is gone. I have to play this
Mhm.
thing tapped. Swing with Tamio, gets a clue, but what are you gonna do? I mean, he's only got one man up.
Yeah.
Kevin can now draw. If
And-
Will doesn't have either a
Ooh, wait a minute. That's a Flame of Anor. We can blow up the Tammy, draw cards, or blow
Yep.
up the Tammy and a clue. But wow,
that's huge.
that is really good. Wow.
Kevin down to
And
15.
you saw how excited Kevin was to go deploy that Tishana's
Yep.
on the fetch. He was so happy about that. What a play.
Here comes a Flager Flame. Flage,
Gonna be Flage, okay.
kill the Tamio,
Mm-hmm.
go back up to 16. Pass the turn. Will untaps draws. Will with a Bikini Bottom Island.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin untaps, draws, drew another Flooded Strand.
Yeah, Raptimus Prime says sick play, and you bet it was.
I completely agree. That's a good buddy of ours. I'm glad he's here watching for one of our best friends, Kevin, in the finals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, Will up a game, but Kevin coming back.
Here's a
strong.
Bowmasters.
Let's see if he has another Tishana's for that. Would be quite humorous, but I don't.
So
think he does.
here's the thing about Flame of Anor with Orcish Bowmasters. If you Flame of Anor the Bowmasters in response to the ETB, because of how Flame of Anor works, the first mode is draw 2 cards.
Mhm.
The last mode is deal 5 damage. I'm fairly certain it's either the Destroyer, the Artifact, or 5. So
Mhm.
when you go down the list, the Bowmasters will say, "Hey, you drew cards."
Mhm.
Then I get killed. So Will be able to kill the Tidebinder, but so we'll see if Kevin notices this or not. Destroy your clue. This is response.
He's gonna go ahead
to-
and draw those cards in response here. Good call for sure.
Definitely not a bad play. Spell Pierce. Go to 14. What's Kevin going to do here? There's another Bikini Bottom Island. Maybe. Okay, so we fetch up to pay for the 2. Bowmasters resolves.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we were talking about with Spell Pierce.
How much value it loses the later you
Yeah,
game and
it
get later in the
feels
game.
So amazing if you can use it to, save a frog from a static prison on turn 3 or something like that. Or really from the fatal push is the most common thing that Pierce is used for. But man, it's just really hard to get value out of it. That said, I still agree with Will in firing it off because he needs to put it in the bin
Yep.
to eat with a Murktide, and I think that's what's going on right now.
Well, Kevin has the tech. He's got Path Exile in hand.
Yeah.
So this
Clean
Murktide,
answer.
Even though this Murktide is only a 5/5, so it is also still Flame of Honorable. But I think you have to respect. I mean, Will. It all depends what Will has in hand. Kevin gonna think. Kevin's got another Tishana's Tidebinder. Kevin is a Path, Tidebinder, Lauren Revealed, Flame of Noir. 2 cards being from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lauren Revealed, what a Magic card cycle. One of the-
I really like Lorien Revealed. I think it is a lot of fun.
So kill your clue, kill your Murktide.
Mm-hmm.
Goes to the, which is a, I mean, hey, you got a 2-for-1 out of your card. Even though he didn't get to draw cards, it still feels really good to get that off the battlefield. There's a Thoughtseize for Will. Kevin has the chance to respond.
Yeah, I think Thoughtseize is a really good card for Will to see here.
We path the, yep, we're going to path the Bowmasters.
Mm-hmm. Will loving that ramp after getting stifled just a moment ago.
Oh, yeah. Are the lists available? All lists, I believe, all top 8 lists will be posted in the comments of one of the YouTube videos. I'm pretty sure that's how Alex does it. I'm not, don't quote me on it. That's a Impact employee thing. We're just on the team and we're just streaming for the day. So I'm unsure.
We are noobs at this, but we are having a dandy old time.
Oh, here's a Psychic Frog. Discard 2 cards, pump up the frog.
Gotta say, Will's finding a lot of threats right now.
Yep.
Kevin had a lot of clean answers back to back to back to back. And
But
yet-
that Bowmaster just put a big wrench in his plan by saying, hey, you can kill my stuff, but you can't draw cards.
yes, forced him to spend his cards dealing with the Bowmaster. And that meant the Flame of Anor did not get to draw him a bunch of cards. So
Nope.
we are seeing a 1 of Tidebinder in Kevin's hand, and that is it. However, I'm seeing a Flage in Kevin's bin with the ability to escape it, and Will is tapped out.
I agree. I was going to mention that. That Flage is, if Kevin can find Arena of Glory, it's going to
Oh, he
be
kept
left
it.
on
He
top. We'll
kept
see what
it.
it is. There's a pending for the
Wow.
frog, and I imagine we're going to see this Flage come back.
Yep.
Here he comes.
Wow.
4, exile, 5 cards. Don't worry. I'm sure I got 5 fetch lands.
Yep.
That's all. I think he could hit one other card and the fetch. So Kevin up to 13, which we already had Kevin at. Will down to 7. I'm sorry about life totals. This is just a thralling game of Magic in a deck that I really enjoy watching. And we're scooping up, and we're going to game number 3.
Wonderful. You know, it's been said many times before, but the best words in Magic going to game 3. Could not be more excited. I am really looking forward to this.
This is a lot of fun. It's good.
Yeah.
This is a good finals. It's never a good feeling to watch a stomp of a finals.
Agreed. So this has been really exciting. Both of these players playing really, really tight today.
I
Playing
agree.
Very clean, really wonderful to see. And I can't wait to see how game 3 goes. It does look like Will is going to make some boarding decisions. If I'm Will, I might bring the Harbingers back because Harbinger on the play feels
Yes.
so much better than Harbinger on the draw. And tell you what, Kevin did not seem to care too much about playing around that Harbinger.
I love watching stomping in the finals when I'm in them and I'm stomping.
Yeah, that is the side of that scenario that
That's funny.
that feels good. Yeah, excellent sequencing by KT there. Absolutely. That was a masterclass.
That was a huge amount of plays. Kevin talking about the choices of playing Lightning Helix and mentioning, there was a long time when St. Louis, and I don't know if you were playing in that meta, St. Louis was the burn city, burn capital USA. You
Yes.
go to when an older shop called Moonbase Market was open, you go to a tournament and 40% of the room would legitimately be 40% all on burn.
Mhm.
There's a ton.
And what this meant was that basically every combo deck, every control deck, really every deck at all was judged by, can you survive burn? Can you survive Can you combo off before burn kills you? Can you prepare your strategy before burn kills you? Can you stabilize before burn kills you? That was kind of the litmus test
Yep.
for that era.
Which we haven't seen in a while. But I mean, Lightning Helix is good versus the Boris Energy matchups. Does the Frog list have Kaidos or in the sideboard for Jace the Mind Sculptor? I don't think Jace has any. I don't think he's playing some Kaidos in the main. I do not believe there are any Kaidos in the side. Remember when Burn was good? Sarah dies a lot. The Burn, one of the many Burn players I know. I think Burn's fine. I think a lot of it comes to the Burn player, and maybe Sir dies a lot. Maybe just not good at Burn.
Yeah, I do think right. It's really surprising. Burn won a challenge on MTGO not that long ago, right?
It's been creeping in the. It's been creeping around.
And I have to say, anytime I am on MTGO and I see Burn, I think, wow, a free win. And it makes me very happy.
Don't say that.
But
Don't put Burn down.
But a few nights ago, I played against our very own Will in the finals on Burn, and he mollywopped me and really made me eat my hat.
When you're not prepped for it, it hurts.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So I got punished for sure, and you know what? Nah, I deserved it, right? Fair enough. That's what I get for hating on Burn. Also worth mentioning, Burn, one of the most classic decks.
Oh yeah, Burn is a modern staple.
Yes.
Will with a land, Kevin with the Tameo. Does Will have the push? Will down to 19. Let's see. Do we see the fatal push? Or are we getting surveilled? Nope, we are going to do surveilling.
I can't stress enough how impactful these early turns are. I know that in these control matchups where we see the game go really long, it seems like what's truly important is who can resolve a haymaker or something like that. And don't get me wrong, that absolutely has value. But I think one of the most important things for us to be watching for is a early Psychic Frog drawing a bunch of cards, or an early Tameo making a bunch of clues. If you can have something like that, an early engine generate a bunch of card advantage, you can absolutely run away with the game. And that's what I'm keeping my eye on here.
Yep, absolutely. And Will, I mean, he just surveilled away one of his other surveillance, which is very rough to see when, because you want to keep that surveil in the bottom part of your deck until like turn, I don't know, 7 or 8, when you got to make sure you hit those top decks. But you may not get there. Here's a Psychic Frog. Does Kevin have a piece of hard piece removal for this froggy boy?
And
Kevin
I
drew a
think
Flame of Anord. It's not going to cut it.
Yeah, so I mean, exactly the early plays I was talking about, both the Frog and the Tameo have come out to play early, neither of which meeting a Spell Snare or Fatal Push or any of the common removal you might expect. Let's see what the plan is. They're both developing their boards quite nicely, though.
Kevin being very particular in the lands he chose. I think he chose the one that had a family. Oh. Will drawing a counterspell. Combat. Cracking with the frog. Block with the Tameo. Do you want to put 2 cards? Do you want to discard 2 cards to pump this frog?
And as a avid Frogtide player, the answer is what's in my hand.
Yeah.
If I'm holding 2 fetch lands, you bet I am feeding that frog, and I am doing everything I can to hold up counter spells and whatever will stop him from removing my my frog. However, if I'm Will and I'm not holding counter magic, I don't really want to throw my card advantage away, only to watch my frog get pended next turn.
Yep. And that's really painful with frog, where you do have to put a lot of resource. Oh my gosh, he discarded a Force Negation. That feels rough. But we're gonna kill his Tameo off, which is, Kevin's like, sure.
Just to call attention to that, he did discard a Force of Negation, which, like you said, feels rough. But that makes me want to say Will is holding heat in his hands right now.
Yeah.
If Force is one of the cards, like I said, all we're doing right now is protecting this frog. And if he's decided he doesn't need the Force, that makes me want to say he's holding a counter spell plus one other piece of interaction. And I could be wrong about that, but that is the first thing I think when I see that Force of Negation go down.
Yeah. That also means if he doesn't have another one, and Kevin rips the pending, the frog goes, and there's nothing Will could do about that. Unless he has 2 open mana, so we have a counterspell available to us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
See what Kevin wants to do. Untap. Draw.
Throw
Cameo off the top.
cameo on the table. Absolutely. Will missed a land drop. last
That's
turn.
that's rough.
Now, the good news here for Will is that this deck can actually operate very comfortably off just 2 mana.
Yep.
It's really preferred to have 3, sometimes even like to get up to 4 to hardcast a subtlety, but ultimately 2 mana is what you need to safely protect your frog. However, if that gets too far out of control, the ability for Kevin to win a counterspell fight on the stack just continues to go up as Will loses his ability to fight over those.
If you're in the counterspell fight, and usually, back in the day, the old blue-white mirrors would usually not end on who had more cards in hand. It's who had more mana available to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're getting into like the 3-4 mana counterspell fights, it's huge that you have more mana than your opponent.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially since Will pitched his Force of Negation, one of his free pieces of
Oh,
interaction.
Kevin took the hit. Does Will draw another land? Here's the question.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kevin opting to save this Tameo, and I tell you what, it's because he has that Flame of Anor.
Will did not hit a land.
Interesting. So Will did find a Harbinger, but is that a basic? No, it's a basic island,
It's
isn't
a
it?
basic island. So Kevin doesn't have he doesn't have a Harbinger protection right now. And the other problem is Will definitely has a counterspell. I saw the SpongeBob one. It's the only card I could really see in his hand, but he's definitely he has a counterspell for sure.
Now, Will is so if Will hit another land off that, he resolves Harbinger, and the Flage and the Flame, all of that just get turned off for Kevin. That would suck. Because Will didn't find it, Will is now going to be in this really awkward spot where he needs Kevin's shields to be down, and he needs to find a land so that he can resolve this Harbinger.
Yep.
He can't throw the Harbinger out cold. There's too high of a chance it gets countered, and then his frog is open to removal, and really, Will is playing to the frog. That's his win con.
Kevin's gonna he's gonna do it. He's gonna flame here.
He is. There it is.
And
All right.
Lenore, there's a counterspell.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He says flame of Anor, and yeah, he stops him from doing
Flame of Lenore.
that. So yeah, he stops him from doing that. That's the counter spell that we frankly kind of
Alluded
used some
to.
context clues to assume he had.
Oh, did he draw land? He might have drawn a Bloodstained Mire. I really can't tell. There's like a shadow
Yeah.
right where Will is. Okay, so Kevin's like, all right, I didn't get to flip my Tameo. It gets thrown on the
And
bus.
we just found another scenario where if Will finds a land, which he did.
He did.
drew
Oh, and a
Harbinger.
Thoughtseize.
Okay, choosing to Thoughtseize, that's seems like a really good play. What are you taking here, Jake? I'm telling you right now, when I look at this hand, Snapcaster is what looks scary to me, but only because I know I have Harbinger.
I don't disagree. Kevin does have a Scalding Tarn. So Kevin, if
Mhm.
he fetch, if I'm Kevin, I'm like, I gotta search up a basic mount here, even if you know your opponent doesn't have a Harbinger. But
And even then,
Man,
he's choked on
there's-
white mana with no ability to cast Flage, and he needs
Correct.
2 white pips if he wants to resolve a.
and there goes Snappy.
Yep. I think that's the right call. So right now, we only know that Will is holding a Harbinger. If Will is holding another piece of interaction that he
I
can.
think he
set
has
up
another counter. He
response-
definitely has another counterspell, specifically counterspell, because
Okay.
it's the only card I can tell from that angle.
Yeah. He's going to fetch now. He's not going to get to Shauna. Good call, Will. I would be scared of it too.
Like, you're not a fifth, so you're not gaining life for that. Get out of here.
Wait, inverse fetches?
Hold on.
Got a basic swamp.
Basic Swamp.
Another frog.
Interesting.
Mm,
Now, that's actually a pretty sweet play since he knows what Kevin has. I think if it wasn't for that Thoughtseize, we'd be very scared of doing that, but
Kevin
yeah.
either is fetching up a basic, or he's got to try to hit a Wrath of the Skies. Kevin hit. Because I'm sure he probably brought the Wrath in. Oh, we're not getting a
He
land.
didn't get the basic. He might get
He's
blown
got.
out
He's
by
got to
a
dig for
Harbinger.
answers for these frogs, or
He
he's
does.
dead.
He does, yeah. But if he throws the Flage, if he casts the Flage and tries to Helix the Frog without counters on it, if I'm Will, I let that resolve and I just Flood Moon and end this game. That
Yeah.
Frog is going to have such high value, and it looks like Kevin is feeling the pressure. Notice his body language has changed. Will, while he does such a great job keeping a poker face, you can tell him getting excited. Look at that little bounce he's doing.
He's flicking those cards.
That is his leg going up and down. That is what he does. Gets a little restless leg syndrome
Oh
when
my
he's
gosh, what did we
excited.
draw? We got 2, 3 mana.
Three. A
Flame,
flame of
just
a Nor.
hard casting a Flame of Nor.
But with no wizard, he's
There's a Force Negation pitch counterspell. Oh, that's
Interesting.
huge.
interesting. And yeah, Harbinger.
And
keep
Harbinger,
it up.
jeez. Oh no.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Wow. Kevin's gonna play it out. He's gonna see if he can find anything, but
I don't know what's left in his
I don't
deck.
think so either. I don't know what he can do here. But what a play from Will. So much pressure.
So we're island cycling here. Gonna get a basic
I mean,
island.
has to be, right? What else are you gonna
Yep.
do? Get an island or a island with extra steps?
Man, if Kevin drew, I didn't even. I mean, we couldn't see the other Force Negation, so that's huge.
There it is. Will's cracking a smile. All right, he's letting the poker face slip. He's cracking a bit of a smile. There it is. There's the
There's a
concession.
handshake. Oh.
That's it. That's it. Wow. What a barn burner of an
And
RCQ.
will be your
Make sure they get your email address up.
very first. I mean, first modern RCQ of the St. Louis area champion. Wow, this has been a day. 8 hours of streaming. Great match. I'm tired. I've been here all morning in this chair. It's hot in this room. But honestly, thank you everyone so much
Absolutely.
for watching.
Big congrats to Will for
Huge congrats.
making that happen. What clean play we just saw.
To wrap this all up, if you like the content, if you're watching on Twitch right now, follow the channel, subscribe. There's something that happens every single night here at Impact Gaming Center. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like, make sure you comment in the comments. I don't know, put what we're playing for Modern RCQ season. Do you think Jeskai Wizards was sick? Do you think that you're going to be playing Eldrazi when you can buy Ugins? Let us know what you got going on. And then if you liked any of the cards you saw today and you said, man, Merc Frog made my favorite deck, probably got him on the Impact Gaming Center. I'm pretty sure they do. Actually, very certainly I'll have like almost all the cards for this. But congratulations to Will. Check out impactgamingcenter.gg. I'm Jake.
And this is Lincoln.
Thank you so much for watching. And this is the crew signing off. Good night.
Good night.